hot sauce
Oh, that's what
stain.
shouldn't be quality. Okay.
They're all the blemishes here and there.
Okay, we're on air, boys.
You got the video to work.
Yeah. Can you put down the thing?
Put down the thing.
No, don't touch that. The bag of the cookies.
Oh,
the cookies, here.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, just put it down.
How's that?
Who would have
I
known?
almost sent the computer back.
Unless you'd
into,
like some.
remission.
No, at the end of the class, I went through every button on that computer, and then at the end of the class, I sent to my techie to ask him what to do, and he says, try what do you call it? Right clicking inside the box.
And that was
It's
it.
a little too, and
that
guess
was it.
what? It's
That
easy
seems
if
a
you
lot-
know the trick.
Yeah, that seems simple.
Easy to walk on water if you know where the rocks are. Okay. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard. This class meets in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Rus, Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. So now it's a few weeks after Pesach. We started our class after Pesach. I don't remember exactly. Probably 1 or 2 weeks after Pesach, 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And this week is Lag BaOmer. On Shavuos, we celebrate giving the Torah. On Lag BaOmer, we celebrate giving of the hidden Torah, of Pnimius HaTorah. So the anniversary is, for this book, is this week for Lag BaOmer. So that's why we celebrate. That's why we rejoice. That's why we eat barbecue hot dogs and drink beer, right?
That makes sense.
A lot of calories there too. Gershon, sorry.
A lot of Pneumius in there.
A lot of Pneumius?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those beers.
I say it's a lot of calories in beer. We started off by talking about the calories.
Yeah.
So it's a special time. Now we understand that Lag BaOmer is a very special event, and this class can appreciate Lag BaOmer more. We all realize that once you're already going here, where we go with this class, once you're already going here, we realize that this barely scratches the surface.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot more.
Yeah.
And much deeper than just what's written here. Okay, so we're at Bahar, page 653. And this week we talk about this parsha, because we're going to be here for a few months. We're going to be living here probably for a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 2 months. We talk about the year of Shemitah. 6 years we work the land, and the 7th year is Shemitah to let it be. We don't work in the land. The Torah says Shabbos Hashem. It is a Shabbos for Hashem, a rest for Hashem. That the land is left alone. Okay, Jim, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
When you come into the land which I'm giving you, the land shall rest. A Shabbat for Hashem. This is the commandment of letting the land lay fallow every 7th year. The meaning of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee will be understood after the following discussion. We shall see that there is a weekly Sabbath and a sabbatical year, which is also called a Sabbath. As it is written, a Sabbath for Hashem, and a Sabbath of the land. Let us examine why the sabbatical year is also called a Sabbath. and what difference there is between the weekly Sabbath and the sabbatical year. We've already explained that the essence of the Sabbath is that it is a spiritual ascent of all worlds, each one rising to a higher level than it is during the rest of the week. To wit,
Do it. Good legal term.
I know that one. To wit, the Netzach Hod Yesod Malchus of Asiya collectively ascend to the level normally occupied by Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet. And Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet ascend to the level of Chachma Bina Das, and Chachma Bina Das of Asiya ascend to the level of Netzach Hod Yesod Malchus of Yetzirah, and so on, up to the original origin of the emanation itself. For even Erech Ampin ascends on Shabbos, and its place is taken by Abba and Ima, as is known.
So we have 4 levels of creation, going from the top to the bottom, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Each of the 4 levels has 10 steps or subdivisions, and these 10 within each level are divided into 3. The top 3 of the intellect, Chachma, Bina, and Das. The middle 3, which is the primary emotions, Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferes, and then the bottom 4, which are at the bottom, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. And so on Shabbos, each group of 3 or 4, everything goes up 1 level. So Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus go up, take the place of Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes. Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes goes up, take the place of Chachma, Bina, Das. Chachma, Bina, Das go up from Asiya, they go up to the 3rd level, Yetzirah. Mm-hmm. And in Yetzirah, they take the place of the bottom level. Everything gets moved up 1. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
So it is clear that from this, that the Sefirot behave collectively relative to their energy levels. Although each Sephira has its own identity, the Sephira of the intellect, of the emotions, and of behavior and expression function together as units. For this reason, the ascent they undergo on Shabbos occurs relative to these energy levels. A world in Kabbalah is a level of consciousness, a realm in which whatever is there shares a common awareness of Hashem.
Hold on. In simpler terms, the Hebrew word is olam, which you usually translate as world. Mm-hmm. Actually, these are steps or levels in the process of creation. Mm-hmm. So in the creation process, first it goes through here, then through there, then through there, then through there. It goes through 4 stages. That's the word, stages. 4 stages in the process of creation, where the godliness is hidden, obscured more as it goes through each stage of creation. And it's more diluted. So that's the world in Kabbalah, is a level of consciousness. Each stage, the godliness, the higher the stage, the stronger the level of godliness. As it goes through, the godliness becomes less and less, or less apparent, more hidden. So at the higher stages, the godliness shines stronger. That was the word, stronger, shines stronger. That's what he just says. A world in Kabbalah is a level of consciousness, or the stage, the 4 stages of creation, where godliness shines. There's awareness of godliness highest in the top, in the first of the 4 stages, and very little in the lowest stage. Okay, now you can go ahead.
A lower world sustains less divine consciousness, a higher world more. The ascent of the worlds on Shabbos, one notch in the hierarchy of consciousness, thus means that each level temporarily is able to sustain a level of God awareness that is normally too high for it. Normally, if someone or something on the level of Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, of Asiya would acquire the consciousness of Chachma, Bina, Das of Asiya, that would mean that he has ascended from the previous level to the higher one. On Shabbos, however, the lower level ascends to the higher level while still retaining its identity as the lower level. This temporary bending of reality occurs only on Shabbos, and reality reverts to its normal, stable state as soon as Shabbos is over.
There's I can't remember who the tzaddik is or the rabbi is, but he had written, maybe when I say this you'll know who I'm talking about. He had written many Sfarim, and he was inclined to, whatever the Sefer was called, Sefer blank, he was inclined to, before calling it blank, call it Sefer Shabbos blank, because all of the Chedushim that he had were only on Shabbat. So all
Really?
the Sfarim that he wrote were from ideas that he had on Shabbos.
I've never heard that.
Because of this, there's comments in that you have higher level of consciousness and thought process on Shabbos. Torah thought
That I
process.
didn't hear. That's very interesting. I heard something else. There was a rabbi, I don't remember who. There was a rabbi who complained that all his best ideas came to him on Shabbos when he wasn't allowed to write them down.
Yeah.
But it's that probably the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. The difference between the two is this one remembered.
The what?
He remembered these.
Yeah.
So I was able to write them.
Wow. Okay. So it still retains the identity of the lower level. All right, Jim, continue.
It follows that on Shabbos, all worlds experience an ascent. The sabbatical year is called a Sabbath since it is similar in this respect to Shabbos. All worlds ascend to a level higher than their normal one, just as they do on the weekly Sabbath. The difference is that on Sabbath, Shabbat, all creation experiences ascent, while in the sabbatical year, only the lower three worlds, the three lower worlds, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, ascend. Okay?
Okay, so only the three lower worlds on the
On the sabbatical year.
sabbatical year on the Shemitah. Okay, 655 at the top.
Okay.
Yoel.
Very interesting. Okay, this works as follows. Netzach, Hod, Yesod of Asiya ascend to the level of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes of Asiya, and so on, just as on Shabbat. Thus, Chachma Bina Dat of Bria ascend to the level of Malchut of Atzilus. But from Malchut of Atzilut on up there is no ascent whatsoever, and we mortals have no power to cause any such ascent. These levels ascend only on Shabbat. Notice that in the description of what happens on Shabbat, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut all function as one unit, whereas here, the Rizal mentions only Netzach, Hod, Yesod functioning as a unit, and Malchut seems to be functioning separately, as seen in the fact that Chachma Bina Dat of Bria are described as ascending to Malchut of Atzilut and not to Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut of Atzilus. This discrepancy will be explained presently.
Can you say over? Explain in your own words.
Malchut is left out of the...
Yeah, and you see that in
Malchut is
two
left out of the
places.
4-unit.
When he spoke about Shabbos, he said he considered it Netzach Hod Yisod Malchus as one unit. When he's talking about Shemitah,
3.
Netzach Hod Yisod is one, and Malchus is not part of the group.
So Malchut never ascends.
See?
It's interesting. Absolutely.
That will be explained shortly. Also, one doesn't say. We'll see if he
I'm
says.
sorry, I don't know what I was expecting you to read.
We'll see if he says.
Yeah.
what happens on Shabbos during Shemitah.
Yeah, that's what I just had.
Doesn't
that
have to
thought.
go anywhere. It's already there, or is there a second difference?
Well, there is a difference. You just said.
Yeah.
Atzilus ascends on Shabbat.
Okay, and aside from Atzilus? We'll see.
Okay.
Okay, 655 in the middle.
There is a second difference which will shed additional light on the difference just described. On Shabbat, all four lower sphirot of each world ascend to the level of the three middle sphirot. In the sabbatical year, this is not the case, but rather only Netzach Hod Yisod of Asiya ascend to the level of Chesed Gvura Tiferet of Asiya, while Malchut of Asiya ascends to the level of Netzach Hod Yisod of Asiya. Thus, Malchut behaves independently of Netzach Hod Yisod and does not ascend with them to the level of Chesed Gvura Tiferet, but only up to the level of Netzach Hod Yisod and remains there by itself. Okay. Similarly, the three higher spheres of Asiya ascend to the level of Malchut of Yetzirah to the level of Netzach Hod Yisod of Yetzirah, Netzach Hod Yisod of Yetzirah to the level of Chesed Gvura Tiferet of Yetzirah, Chesed Gvura Tiferet of Yetzirah to the level of Keter Chachma Bina of Yetzirah, Keter Chachma Bina of Yetzirah to the level of Malchut of Bria, and Malchut of Bria to the level of Netzach Hod Yisod of Bria. Following this pattern, Keter Chachma Bina of Bria ascend to the level of Malchut of Atzilut. From this point upward, all the spheres remain at their usual level and do not ascend as we pointed out above.
Okay, yeah, so Malchus is clearly its own
Has independence.
independence, its own group. For Shemitah.
Uh-huh.
And it stops the flow of that which is before it. Whatever's flowing underneath it, it stops.
At Malchus.
At Malchus, yeah. So it's more than just being independent. It contains that which is flowing from underneath it.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
you're saying in the other direction?
As it comes up,
Uh-huh.
it stops at
but everything
Malchus.
stops.
It stops at Malchus. So,
You're saying in the reverse direction of flow.
correct. The
But
opposite.
even in Malchus of,
The
let's say,
ascent.
let's say Malchus of Yetzirah.
Yes,
So Chachma Bina Das of Asiya
stop.
goes up to Malchus.
Stops at Malchus.
Malchus goes up to Netzach
Malchus
Hod
goes up
Yisod.
to the Yesod,
Netzach.
Netzach, and Hod
Yeah.
of Yetzirah.
Yeah.
So it's a replacement almost. It takes the place of at that level,
Yes. Okay.
where they would rise in the other analysis. You know,
So I
the
guess
other
Malchut of Atzilut does not rise at all.
Malchus of
Atzilut doesn't rise.
Not on Shemitah.
no.
So what does
doesn't
it do? It occupies the same space?
We got
And
Then it's like a Shabbat.
27 more
In that
pages.
situation, it's like a
And
Shabbos.
it's
No,
got to
well,
contain the Bria of Chachma Bina Dasa Bria as well, because that rises
Yeah,
to the
that's what
Malchus.
I'm-
So
that's what
you're
I'm saying,
containing
yeah.
all of that
It's
there.
like it's the same thing
Four
as
are right
Shabbos,
into there.
Which happens on
Which
Shabbat.
happens on Shabbos.
So either maybe there's a similar.
That what Shabbos?
On Shabbos,
On the
there's usually
Shemitah
four
year,
space.
the Chachma, the Bina, the Das of Bria come up to the Malchus of Atzilus
Yeah,
and stay there with Malchus
right.
of
And Malchut
Atzilus.
doesn't ascend.
On Shemitah.
On
On
Shemitah.
Shemitah, so
Right.
that's the only four prongs.
And there's that means four prongs take place on
On
Shemitah.
Shemitah, only one in that one place.
Four energies in that place.
But on Shabbos, that happens for all. of
For
them.
all.
They all go for it.
That keeps going,
Right.
ascending.
I don't know. We'll see what that means.
Okay, ready? 656.
We will now explain how it is possible on Shabbos for all four lower Sephiros, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus, to ascend together. Netzach, Hod, and Yesod exist on the three axes of the right, left, and center, respectively. It will be recalled that the Sephiros are organized into trilinear array that depicts the various relationships between them. This structure is as follows. Left, Bina, Gebura, and Hod. Center, Keter, Das, Tiferes, Yesod, and Malchus. Now, why Das is in parentheses?
Because if you count Keter,
Yeah,
then you don't count Dat.
okay. And the right axis, Chochmah, Hesed, and Netzah. The energy level of the Sephiros is reflected in their position in this structure. For example, the energy level of Netzah and Hod is lower than that of Hesed and Gebura. Okay.
Chesed and Gvura are at the middle line. Hod and Yesod, Hod and Netzach are beneath them.
The fourth of the four lower Sephiros, Malchus, is not situated below them as the chart might seem to indicate, such that we might assume that it occupies a level of its own. If this were the case, we would have to explain how is it possible that the three Sephiros can occupy the place normally occupied by four, or four Sephiros, the place normally occupied by three.
Could you do that slowly?
Yeah. If this were the case, we would have to explain.
The fourth.
Before,
Go to the
start
fourth.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
and
The
do
fourth of the four lower Sephiros, Malchus,
Yes.
is not situated below them, as the chart might seem to indicate, such that we might assume that it occupies a level of its own. If this were the case, we would have to explain how is it possible that three Sephiros can occupy the place normally occupied by four, or four Sephiros, the place normally occupied by three. As was detailed above, on Shabbos, the Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus of each world collectively ascend to the level of Chesed, Gebura, Tiferes of that world. Likewise, the Chochmah Bina Das of each world ascend to the level of Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus of the next world up.
Everyone get that?
So
Go ahead.
So Yesod and Malchus are same level, or
He didn't say that yet.
although we've kind of thought that Malchus was in its lower level of each world or each.
So
It's hard to say.
there is Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, and Malchus on Shabbos rise up to take the place at each stage of Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes. Similarly, the Chachma, Bina, and Das of each stage rise up on Shabbos to take the place of Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. So 3 moves into the spot of 4, and 4 moves into the spot of 3. That's a discrepancy.
Well, if we're talking about just energy
It depends
levels,
where Malchus is. It depends where Malchus is.
This is the discrepancy that he
Okay,
says
I
here.
understand.
It needs to displace it. It should displace it, logically.
Would we talk about the primordial man, Adam Kudler? We talk about the body and arm and Gevura, right and left. You talk about the center.
Torso.
And then Netzach and Hod, this and this, and the Yesod. Where is Malchus? And that's the question.
That's where he's going to go.
Where is Malchus?
Well-
You ever
In
see
the body.
in the primordial man? Adam
it's
Kudler,
the funny bone.
No.
In the Oriental stuff, it's the chakra. So Malchus is the last one. It's very powerful.
The funny bone?
My aunt had
You
stories.
sound like one of the, that we had last week with the bone, in the.
It's the coccyx.
Oh, no, the.
Somewhere there.
I don't know
the-
chemistry.
The sorcerer, they're using the bone.
Oh yeah, that was the bone. We
The
didn't
bone.
talk about
Remember
it.
the bone and the sorcerer, yeah.
Yes.
In last week's part, the bone.
Oh, what is it?
They raise the dead, and they
Onan
have the
and,
dead Yidoni
Yitoni, that's it.
Yeah.
and Ov.
Yeah.
And there's different opinions exactly what they are.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the Yidoni, they put the bone of a
Some
bird.
bone, Some bone.
My name of the bird is Yadua.
Yeah.
They stick it into their mouth.
Yeah.
Or they speak from their
Or
armpits.
they
That's
go
what-
like with the
speaking
armpit.
from the armpit.
They speak from their
They
armpit.
speak from the armpit.
That's what?
So weird.
It speaks
Bizarre.
From,
So
it
strange.
speaks from the. It's just. Whoa, what do you do with that?
New perspective of the armpit.
Yeah, that was the whole. Anyway, that's where you.
I could
You know what
not-
the
that's where,
armpit
that's
is.
where your funny
You
bone
know,
took me.
Shoot some deodorant this way or something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you make some noise. I was
No,
never.
no,
That's all
no.
I can
There
do,
was
yeah.
sorcery coming from there.
Sorcery. They have voices.
We
There were voices.
respect
No,
this.
really. It was
Yes.
scary stuff.
That was last
It is-
week.
it is pretty
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, last week.
All right, where the heck are
It's
we?
like really appealing, you know?
Yeah.
Gee, that sounds like a trick I'd like to do.
All right.
Hold on.
This is
Hold
not
on.
the case.
Well, hold on. You know, maybe in some compound out in
Behind them? Yes, behind
Utah or
them.
northern Wyoming
Yeah.
or northern Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bottom.
Oh, so what were you saying? So we said that they're Malchus. Say, where is Malchus? Where's Malchus?
Here it comes.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Bottom line on 656.
This is not the case. However, since Malchus is not underneath Netzachot and Yesod, but behind them, as is known,
Sure.
Yeah.
We all know
Malchus
that.
stands behind the Netzachot Yesod of Zerampin. It follows that the feet of Malchus extends down only as far as does the lower extremity of Netzachot Yesod of Zerampin. This being the case, Malchus does not occupy any vertical space by itself at all.
Oh, hold on.
Hold on. The feet of Malchus extend down only as far as the lower extremity of your soul. Of this. So it's not even down here. It's behind.
It's not linear.
It sounds
It's
like
not-
it
it's
sounds
not
like
linear
right
at all.
between your Tiferet and your Sod.
No, it's not two-dimensional. It's three-dimensional.
It's
No, I'm
behind,
saying, so
It's
here's the
three-dimensional, right.
chart, and here's Malchut. That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
And it's sitting in between the space of Hod and Netzach. Between the space of Tiferet and
Behind.
Yesod.
It says here behind the three of them.
Behind,
but in
in
between,
that
because its
space.
extremities go as low as Yesod. It
Yeah.
goes as low as Hod, Netzach, Yesod.
It actually goes
So
down to
how
your
could
sod. Yeah.
So it has to be above Yesod.
Well,
Yeah.
behind.
It doesn't say that.
Above and behind, at an angle upwards behind
Feet-
Yesod. Because it's talking about the
feet
extremities going as
extend
low
down
as.
only as far as the lower extremity of Netzach.
Netzach
So it's,
Yesod.
this way, Malchus does not apply, if it's not vertical by itself, it's,
I'm imagining a three-dimensional diamond.
I mean, how do you know it's standing that way? It could be
Prone.
lying down.
Because
It could be
because
lying down. I'm saying,
In-
Malchus could be lying.
you know who
this
lies
way.
down? Oh, you know who
In
lies down?
between what?
Right there, where you're pointing to, instead of having,
Right,
its
and it
feet
could
could be showing, and it could be prone. I'm just throwing it
You're
at
throwing it- you're throwing it out there.
I just
Taking
throw
a
it
nap.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's just a different way of playing with it. You know, it's behind it,
Let's-
just like
Just
prone.
lying
Yeah, you're
prone.
laying
Or
prone.
prostrate.
Perpendicular. Like,
Perpendicular,
there you go.
okay.
Let's
Support
continue.
This-
657. Let's. You want to do one more? Do one more.
Yes, this is true on weekdays when Malchus is back to
Wait,
back.
wait. Oh, yeah, this is true on weekends. Well, I just lost
Malchus
it.
is back to back with Zerampin. It
Back
is
to
also
back.
true on Shabbos when they turn face to face.
Okay, so it's back.
So they are parallel.
Back to- So it's back to back. So on Shabbos it turns face to face. So it's more than it's not.
During the week, Zerampin and its Nukba, referred to here simply as Malchus, are back to back.
Sorry to interrupt. Zeranpin is the motive attributes,
Correct.
right? All
The
of them-
six.
The six emotive attributes.
Right.
So Malchut takes up as much
Space.
conceptual space, and I'm not saying physical space.
You're
conceptual
jumping.
space as, well, they're back to back.
You're jumping.
To be
That's all I'm
revealed.
gonna say.
One could be shorter.
That's true.
Yeah, could be shorter, but it's back to
Sure,
back.
But it's back to back. Okay.
What this
What is the
means-
difference between back to back and face to face?
We talked about that previously.
Yeah. So read.
All right. What this means is that the emotions are somewhat
Wait,
divorced.
hold on a second. During the week, yeah, okay, I think, start. During the week, Zerampin and Nukva, referred to simply as Malchus, are back to back. What this means,
What this means is that the emotions are somewhat divorced or disconnected from their means of expression. During the week, as we have explained previously, we are intended to focus on the task of rectifying and elevating the physical world. This entails a temporary disconnection from our higher selves as we sally forth into the jungle or desert of or unredeemed reality to slay the dragons and spread the light. In order to engage reality on its own level, we have to turn our backs, so to speak, on the pure experience of inspiration so we can get on with the work at hand.
You ever
On-
see? I'm sorry, guys. Who was it? Like the three.
Musketeers? What?
Yes, I was gonna say Kava. Three Musketeers or something.
Yes.
You ever see it where they go back to back?
Yes, to fight.
Huh?
To fight, they're back to back.
They're back to back with
When
the
they're-
sword
when
fight.
they're fighting, because you have more protection this way.
Were they the Three Musketeers that did that?
All for one and one for all.
Yeah.
Three musketeers do that. Well, there actually are four, but there were three, but somebody joined them.
Yeah,
they
D'Artagnan,
fought.
I don't know, somebody.
Back
I watched
to
it.
like-
But still, that means they have to know exactly what's okay.
It created.
That's what I'm thinking of the back.
It's a defensive.
Yes, there was,
And-
That's
there
very,
was a-
that's very Kabbalistic.
yes, there were three, but someone
Malchut
joined.
joined this.
All right,
Join them.
and that's not too far. Was the fourth one male or female? That's not too far from
That's an
slaying
interesting
from
Well, they had
slaying
long hair at the time.
from slaying dragons.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, well, the dragons.
huh? Yeah, that's where from
that's-
slaying.
that's
On
right.
Shabbos,
not
however,
Shabbos.
That's my week.
we're bidden to rest from this challenge in order to reconnect with our higher selves. In Kabbalistic terminology, this means that our Nukba and Zerampin face each other anew in order to couple. Our means of expressions get recharged from the renewed contact with the emotions that power them.
Our means of expression get recharged from renewed contact with the emotions that power them.
You get in touch with the feminine side.
Well, Zeranpin, no, you get in touch with the Zeranpin. Malchut and
The
Malchut-
emotions
Nukva
get
gets
in,
charged by
get,
Zeranpin.
gets in touch with
Malchut.
Zeram.
No, Malchut gets in touch with Zeranpin.
Malchut gets in touch with
And
Zeram.
emotion.
Nukva and Zeranpin are the same. I mean, Nukva and Malchut are the
Malchut
same.
and Zeranpin
Yeah.
is the emotions.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
this is the reason why it's so important to be, is the mitzvah of being b'simcha on Shabbat. Maybe
Right.
it's tied into
Mhm.
having positive emotions, that it should be a positive connection. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
This is in fact exactly what Malchus demanded. That means that she stand face to face with Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. This refers to the demand of the moon, recorded in the Midrash, that it be placed on equal footing with the sun. The moon symbolizes Malchus, while the sun symbolizes Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. In any
Hold on.
case. Uh-huh.
So here is a different definition of face to face.
It doesn't, the
Engaging.
Midrash doesn't say that the moon should be on equal footing.
The moon
Midrash,
wanted-
the Midrash says to Hashem,
moon
there's
wanted-
two kings, that there should be two kings and over one domain. And then Hashem said, you're right. So because the moon was the one who came to Hashem, Hashem diminished the moon.
Yeah. So what?
But it doesn't, the Midrash, as far as the Midrash that I know, maybe there's another Midrash, but the moon doesn't demand that they're on equal footing.
What it
The moon
demands?
demands the exact opposite,
What?
that there should be only one king.
no, I think it demands it have the
Midrash Rabbah.
same power
No,
as the sun.
Midrash Rabbah, the famous, the conversation continues. The moon then comes to Hashem afterward. Hashem diminishes her, and he or she says whatever the moon is.
It's a good
It
point.
says, what did I do wrong? Why did you diminish me? And he placates the moon by making all of Am Yisrael symbolized by the moon, by making the tzaddik symbolized by the moon, by having the day start with the moon. All the chagim and his manim start
Yeah.
with the moon.
Time.
That's how he makes up for it. That's how Hashem. So there's not.
It's a little different than this. Good point.
It's different than this. It's opposite this.
The
It's
opposite?
not different than this. It's opposite. The moon's he's saying that the moon wants to be on the same level as the sun. The moon says there can only be one king. Or maybe after the fact.
Yeah, I'm not, because this is how I understood it, but whatever. I understand what
I
you're
don't
Okay.
mean to be. I don't mean to be.
No,
a,
good point. It's a very good point.
A naysayer.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
In any case.
So, yeah, Jim, continue 657,
In any
near the
case-
bottom.
In any case, it never occupies any level by itself below them. Thus, okay, hold on a second. In any case, it never occupies any level by itself below them. Thus, if these 4 Sephiroth ascend to a level occupied by 3 Sephiroth, or 3 others ascend to the level occupied by these 4, there is no problem, since the vertical space occupied by these 4 is the same as occupied by the 3.
That's why the Malchut of Atzilut doesn't have to rise. Because Chachma Bina Dat of Berea rise up to the Malchut of Atzilut, and there doesn't have to
Well,
be
first
any
let's
effect
stick to
on Atzilut.
Shabbos.
Let's stay with
Let's
Shabbos,
stick to
'cause
Shabbos
I'm,
right
just,
now.
I'm just only saying that because you were focusing on it, and I thought that would help the understanding.
Yeah, I want to, this one, I want to go
Because there was a
slow.
question before.
Yeah,
So so in the 2 dimensions, it takes up the same space.
in
any
2
case,
dimensions.
it never occupies
Correct.
any level by itself below them.
Correct.
In 2 dimensions, you said it.
In the vertical.
It takes up the same space,
In 2
In- in-
dimensions.
in the ver-
Ah,
in the
yes, That was a
vertical.
good way of putting it.
not counting the depth.
Yes.
In the vertical.
Yeah, yeah, in 3
In
dimensions.
this way,
In
yeah.
3 dimensions. Okay.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
Nice.
right,
Okay.
right. So, however, we must explain something else. We've already explained how this ascent of Sephira occurs on Sabbath. However, and we now explain something else. For this, by the same token, we must ask how.
Could you a little slower and clearer?
However, we must now, because I was digesting. However, we must now explain something else. For by the same token, we must ask how, in the sabbatical year, the first 3 Sephiroth of the particular world can ascend to the level normally occupied by Malchus, or the world immediately above it, which is a level normally occupied by 1 Sephira, or how Malcha, which is 1 Sephira, can it ascend and occupy the level of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, which are on 3 Sephirot. Okay.
Okay.
Or why Malchut would be forced to ascend, because Netzach, Yesod, and Hod all can take up the same space with Malchut. So why would Malchut be inspired?
If it's the
to
same
ascend?
vertical space,
It's in vertical that you're
If
talking,
a Sia
correct.
if it's
But if you're in vertical, yes, but maybe we're not in vertical space.
no, I'm not. Malchut and Netzach, Hod, and Yesod can take up the same space with 3-dimensionally. So why? My question is why would, if Chachma Bina Data, for example, Asiya ascend to Yitzira, why would the Malchut be inspired to ascend if it can take up the same space? If they can all take up the same space? I don't know.
no, it's good. You're on a roll, y'all.
You
I understand what you're saying. I guess in one sense, it's vertically it takes up the same space, but in another sense, it's its own thing.
It's its own thing in the,
I don't know.
on the depth dimension, it sounds
Yes,
like.
yeah.
It's got a special part to it.
Let's
That-
go ahead.
That's what I think is going
There's-
on here. There's
but-
a specialness about Malchus
Yeah.
that
There-
we're not getting, or maybe we're
We're
gonna
not-
get,
we're not there yet,
we're
yeah.
not there yet.
Yeah.
Malchus has a specialness to it.
Yeah.
That's what I think is, we're touching on,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay?
658.
The truth is that this too is self-understood, sure. For Malchus, after all, it's not just 1 Sephira, but rather an entire Partzef, that is Nukva. It is just that the length, that the height of this Partzef is the same as that of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod of Zerampan. Thus, when it ascends, Malchus can fill the level usually occupied by Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. And the Keser Chochmah Bina, or the lower world, can ascend to and fill the place occupied by Malchus alone. Okay. This explains everything.
And that is in the Hebrew.
It does explain everything, and you were right before when you said I said, oh, maybe they're the same height, Zera and Pin and Nukva, and you said not. You said I'm making a jump.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
true.
not
It says
necessarily.
right here exactly what you're saying. It's not the same height.
They're not the same.
Nukva is the same height as it looks like
The three.
The three,
Oh,
that's
zero,
a whole
okay.
Yesod of Veramsha.
That's what you said, Jim.
Yeah, I
Said it
said
could be shorter. Yeah, this self-understood is in the Hebrew. This explains everything is in the Hebrew. I don't think it answers Yoel's question about not taking up any additional vertical space.
Right.
But I guess in one sense yes, in one sense no.
It's hard to picture both at the same time in my brain. The vertical and then separately with depth.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
I-
imagining a pole with a diamond
Yeah.
stand.
Yeah, okay.
With a 4-point stand.
That I can see vertically, but then bringing depth into that. Behind it,
Yeah.
okay, behind it, I can see.
I'm seeing a computer screen.
Behind it, I can
Like
see. It's, yeah, behind
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Behind it, I can see. But.
I want a two-dimensional, Malchut kind of disappears.
Hmm?
Maybe, from a two-dimensional perspective, Malchut disappears behind this other three, like you were saying before. Anyways, I don't want
You ever see
to detract.
a few years ago there was a medical innovation in Israel where they're able to take an image of somebody's heart and like project it in the air, and they have tools and they're actually able to turn it around.
Huh,
You haven't seen this?
Mm.
It's the most
that's unbelievable.
yeah. So they project the heart over here, the person's
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
They can stretch it so they can see
Yeah.
exactly what's going on. I can enlarge it, and it's just like there. And you're watching this on the computer, and the guy has these two tools, and he's like turning it this way so he can look at everything, see what's going on. So that's taking it into 3 dimensions.
Yeah, yeah. There are other differences which will also be self-understood, based on what we will explain presently, pleasantly, please Hashem. All right. Bear in mind, the word Shabbos, Shin Beit Tov, is, as explained in the Zohar, may be read as the daughter of the letter Shin. Okay, this is.
Hold on.
Let's go.
Shabbos,
Yeah,
Shin, Bas.
Shinbas. Shinbas. Daughter of the Shin. Shinbas, Shabbos. Okay. This is because Malchut, which is also called daughter, okay, ascends to the level of Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, which are alluded to by the 3 branches of the Shin, which also alludes as well to the 3 axes of the Sephirot and the 3 patriarchs, as is known. Okay. Nukva is called the daughter of Abba, the father, and Ima, the mother, while Zer Anpin is called the son. We had this. This simply means that the emotions and their means of expression are revealed by the intellect. The 3 patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, personify the 3 axes of the Sephirot, the right, the left, and the center, respectively.
When I saw this morning something, I could maybe repeat this every week. It says that the words, I guess, language and the letters of Hebrew are not by convention. Everybody agrees this will be called an apple, so it's apple. But actually, the language and the letters describe the essence of the object or of that letter. They're accurate descriptions. It's telling what that letter is, or what that word is,
Or what that is.
or of its spiritual source. So Shin Bat.
Shinbat.
The light is next to the oven, next to the door. Like straight ahead. Okay, what did we say? So Shin Bat means daughter of the letter Shin.
Daughter of the letter Shin.
So bat is malchut
Which is-
or
which
nukva.
is-
Bat is
Shin-
Machzakos.
Shin is netzach yisod.
Chesed, it said Chesed Gvur Tiferes.
Chesed Gvur Tiferes.
Okay, let's go to 659.
Okay, when Netzach,
We're going to ask you all to read.
Hod, Yesod ascend, Malchus ascends with them to the level normally occupied by Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. And this is Shabbos. This is the advantage over Shabbos over the sabbatical year. For in the sabbatical year, Malchus ascends only as far as Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. As detailed above, during the sabbatical year, Malchus only ascends to occupy the level of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. On Shabbos, in contrast, Malchus ascends with Netzach, Hod, and Yesod.
Wait a second. This last sentence, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This last sentence seems to conflict with what we've been talking about this whole time. This is the advantage of the Shabbat over the sabbatical year, for in the sabbatical year, Malchut ascends only as far as Netzach Hod Yesod. So in that situation, it seems like Malchut is actually below Netzach Hod
This is what we've
Yesod.
been saying. That on Shabbos, the four, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, ascend
To the same
to
phase.
displace Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes. But on Shemitah, Malchus is not part of the group not part of the group. Malchus is its own. Malchus ascends to displace
Netzach.
Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Netzach and Yesod ascend to displace Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes.
So the sabbatical year is
So the
inferior.
Shemitah year is different.
or-
So we're explaining why.
No, I understand. My Malchut takes the place of Netzach Hod and Yesod during the sabbatical year.
Yeah.
Right.
Do again as detailed
No, but the
above.
reason why I was asking that is because then it seems like Malchut is below.
Yes.
So we said before
We're
that
gonna
Malchut
ex-
is
Behind.
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 Yeah.
So
Or maybe, like
conflicting.
on the
That's
computer when you hit bring to front.
Maybe it
Send to
comes-
back?
Maybe it comes forward. That's another idea. Maybe it comes
Bring-
forward.
Comes
Think
forward,
of
yeah.
it like that.
Yeah, it could
It's
be, yeah.
behind, and in the Shemitah year, it comes
These three
forward.
go up and this
That's-
one comes
yeah, yeah, yeah.
forward. That makes sense.
That may be one way to look at it.
Yeah,
It sounds like your pinball game you used to talk
Right?
about.
What?
that makes sense, yeah. But then Netzach Yesod and Hod disappear.
Let's see. This is what he's explaining. This is the whole. That's why there are 30 pages
But
here.
then- Okay, but then they're going, okay, yeah. All right, but that space,
Do read as detailed.
okay. As detailed, during the sabbatical year, Malchus only ascends to occupy the level of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. On Shabbos, in contrast, Malchus ascends with Netzach, Hod, and Yesod to occupy the level of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. Since the soul is born out of Malchus, the consciousness of the Jew therefore follows the same paradigm. This is why on Shabbos, more worldly pursuits are forbidden than are during the sabbatical year. The soul is an experience of a higher level of spirituality, which would be contravened by engaging in material work.
Hold on, what?
So Malchut is neshama, or the soul, and it ascends in Shabbat.
Because on Shabbos, the soul, Malchus, goes all the way up to
Chesed Gvurah.
Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes. But on the Shemitah, it only goes up to Netzach, Hod, and
It
Yesod.
doesn't go as high.
But you're not allowed to work the land. So there is some sort of
There's some.
Some,
sort of.
but not
holding.
as much as Shabbos. Shabbos has much more restrictions.
Yeah.
But in Atzilus, we said it doesn't go up anyways on the sabbatical year. But we'll
Maybe
see about
that's why
that.
it's some. Maybe that's why
On
it's
Shabbos,
some
it's Shabbos, yes, but not. Well, he doesn't say that here, but we'll
It
see.
doesn't go, Malchus breakers. This then is the mystical meaning of the verses which refer to the sabbatical year as Sabbath, a Sabbath, and the Sabbath of the land, and the land will rest, etc. The land refers to Malchus. It rests by itself and is not included with Netzach, Hod, and Yesod as they ascend to the level of Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, but rather ascends only as far as the level of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod.
That what? That the land is by itself. The land, Malchus,
Malchus.
rests. Yoel, go ahead.
The phrase "and the land will rest" alludes to the first distinction we detailed between Shabbat and the sabbatical year. For Shabbat is the day of rest and ascent for all 10 spherots of Atzilut, whereas in the sabbatical year only Malchut rests and ascends, while the other spherots of Atzilut remain at their usual levels and do not ascend at all. Note here the concept of ascent is considered equivalent to that of rest. While we might assume that rest means staying at one's native level and not ascending, this indicates that resting, in particular Shabbat resting, is conceived in Judaism as a return to one's higher spiritual self, which in fact can often be quite taxing rather than simple relaxation. Huh.
So,
Very interesting.
on
This
on
also explains,
Shemitah,
wow, the whole 39 malachot are.
and I didn't get this the first time. On Shemitah, though, it says the land will rest.
Malchut.
Because it's telling you Malchus is resting, but the other 10 spheres, the rest of the 10 spheres, have no change in
On
Atzilus.
Atzilus. So the Malchut of Atzilus does rise. It rises to
He
Netzach.
says, no, it doesn't go up. It doesn't go up.
But then why is it talking about ascending?
That's what he says here.
For Shabbat,
Note,
they rest.
note that the concept of ascent is considered equivalent to that of rest. I don't think
It
Malchus
ascends
goes up.
only as far as the
No,
level of
it doesn't
Netzach,
say
Hod,
that,
and
Rabbi.
Yesod.
It says,
It
it
does-
says,
it-
whereas in the sabbatical year,
It-
only Malchut rests and ascends,
It is-
while the other spherots of Atzilot, the other 9 spherots, remain at their usual levels and do not ascend at all. So the Malchut of Atzilot does rise to Netzach, Hod, and Yesod.
It says here, although a son has been castrated to remarry,
One minute.
he violates this prohibition of marriage so that he may be.
Yeah, I thought before it said that Malchus
It-
doesn't rise
no.
in the level of Atzilus.
No, it says that
It-
Keter,
he's saying
Chachma,
here.
and Bina of Bria ascend to the level of Malchus of Atzilus.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
it does
but
not say
now-
that Malchus of Atzilus leaves and ascends as well. Here he seems to say,
that's a little.
yeah,
it's
here he
all
seems to say that
contradictory.
the
Little
Malchus
ascends in Atzilus.
does have a change.
It does say that, which is different than what he
Unless
said
it has
here.
some kind of change, but not the same kind of change as before.
Okay, but it talks about some ascent,
Yeah,
but it doesn't. Before I understood that it took the place of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod at the lower level.
there is a change
But I
at the
don't-
level of Atzilus, of Malchus of
But
Atzilus.
Yeah,
but
it
but
changes.
it changes. but-
There is a change because now he has to
But
make.
does it actually? It doesn't take the place of.
No, but there's a-
No, it
Netzach,
doesn't
Hod, and
place, but
Yesod.
Right,
there's
it
no
does not
issue-
say.
There's no issue with that because it's moves into that 3-dimensional mode.
Right.
No, but
Then that
there's,
would imply that Malchut is lower than Netzach, Yesod, and Hod.
oh, let's go ahead. 659 at the bottom.
Okay. Note here.
This then.
Oh, this then. This then is the meaning of a Shabbat of the land, and the land shall rest as Shabbat for Hashem. The land Malchut will ascend to Hashem. The land Malchut will ascend to Hashem, meaning to the higher consciousness of Hashem and forming Zer Anpin. It does not, however, ascend to the level of Chesed, Gvurah, Tiferet, as it does in Shabbat. I'm sorry, I just want to reread that.
Could you do that again, Saul?
This then is the meaning of a Shabbat of the land, and the land shall rest, a Shabbat for Hashem. The land, Malchut, aka Malchut,
Right.
will ascend to Hashem, meaning to the higher consciousness of Hashem in forming Zer Anpin. It does not, however, ascend to the level of Chesed Gvura Tiferet as it does on Shabbat. If this were so, okay, so it does ascend. Will ascend to Hashem, meaning to the higher consciousness.
Yeah, isn't this back to the Netzach Hod Yesod, where it takes the space of it in Asiya, and I think the real place I'm confused about is where Atzilus.
That's one. A few questions. We have a few questions here
I can see it in the other worlds.
that appear to be discrepancies.
Yes,
It does, it ascends to inform Zer Anpin.
right.
Unless before we said that Malchus does not budge.
Right.
Here it seems to say that it bumps up a little bit, or at least comes forward.
Yeah.
It did say before that Keser, Chachma, and Bina do join Malchus at his place. It could be that the influx, even from below, is a type of ascent.
Yeah.
A change.
A change. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to stop here. It's 1:45. We're at the top of 660.
Well,
And we're-
I didn't finish the sentence.
Finish the sentence.
I didn't finish the sentence. So, if this were so, it would not be a Shabbat of rest only for the land, but for Netzach Hod Yesod of Zer Anpin as well. Rather, the sabbatical year is a time of rest only for the land, where it alone ascends. If this were so, it would not be a Shabbat of rest only for the land, but for Netzach
I didn't do my
Anpin
deposit of
as
sleep
well.
last
Rather, the
night.
sabbatical year is a time of rest only for the land, where it alone ascends. So the land, it does ascend to Netzach Yesod.
According to this, it does.
It does.
Before we said it doesn't, according to, over here, it
Did
seems
we
to say it
say
does.
Did we say it doesn't, and we just?
No, I looked up.
Or it said there, it doesn't ascend.
Yeah.
I
what's
thought
with
it.
that?
I thought it said
What's with
in
that
the level of Atzilus, it doesn't. It said it stays. It doesn't.
It's
move.
at the bottom of 655.
That's where I thought I heard. Remember.
It's clearly at the bottom of 655. Following this pattern, Keter Malchus Bria ascend to the level of Malchus Vatzilus. From this point upward, all spheres remain at their usual level. Do not get pass go.
Yeah.
Do not collect $200.
Do not ascend. Do not ascend. Which is where I got confused. The
No,
last-
maybe it was just referring to Asiya Yitzira Bria. They don't ascend any further than that.
Yeah, I think
No,
you're.
but then what would that, no. 'Cause
It
then-
doesn't say it.
Doesn't say. That.
That's not what it says.
It says do
But
not
okay.
ascend. It's a little confusing.
It seems to be a discrepancy. It's not clear.
Or it's just in the level of a sea, which is.
Or it's just in our minds. We'll sleep, wake up in the morning, and we'll.
And
Have it clear.
so what your father always says, where did an hour and 15 or 20 minutes just go, time-wise? Time changes in this class. We have a whole different time.
Okay, so tomorrow night, we have at Ruvain's house, starting at 7 for kids, adults a little later, celebration of Lag BaOmer with bonfire. Jim, you can bring your guitar and entertain us.
Oh, sure.
And then Thursday afternoon here, starting.
What time is the 5?
What?
What time does it go to?
When? Where?
Thursday.
Probably
Thursday
midnight.
till 7-ish.
7-ish.
But yeah, you
Just
can
starts
still.
at 7. Thursday.
Thursday, you could jump on the rides and the bounce house at 4:30, and the food begins at 5. 6:30, we're usually still good. And I'm gonna take
This
us off
discrepancy
air.
bothers me. I'm bothered by this discrepancy.
Well, it's all right.
I'm gonna take us off air.
We'll get to it. It's something was
Something's